Hi, my name is Ramona Williams. I am a rising graduate student at Howard University's architecture program. A big passion of mine when it comes to architecture and just the building industry in general is that I really believe that the best way forward to make buildings that are better for people and better for our planet is that we need to combine sustainability and cultural competency as not just a feature but a core element and a core principle of how architects design. So, to the first part of the statement, sustainability. When we think sustainability, it's usually things like let's recycle our trash and use paper straws and clean up litter on the sidewalks and on the beaches. But for architects, it's also thinking about how the materials of a building can be more sustainable and more environmentally friendly. Environmentally friendly doesn't just mean more biodegradable or like when it does degrade, it's not as harmful to the environment like the plants, the trees, and the animals, but also when it degrades or when it's being in use, how it impacts the physical health and mental health of the human user. So things like paints, for example. Some paints, when you go to the store, are marked as low VOC, volatile organic compounds. Basically, any material that exists in the world releases compounds kind of in the same way we breathe air and we don't really, or like we breathe and we don't really think about it. A similar thing happens with materials like your couch, your table, and also your walls and floors and lighting fixtures and paints. And by reducing the amount of volatile organic compounds, it improves the air quality of the space that users move in, as well as improves the longevity of the material and overall the building. To that point, in a movement towards sustainability, utilizing design techniques like passive design is another way that I believe architects can be more sustainable in an attainable way in their design process. Passive design does things like raising ceiling heights so that the hot air rises, and so that hot air isn't really felt by the users who are much lower in the space, and thus they stay cool and they're not getting overheated in the summertime. So it's things like that and sustainability that I think should become standard practice that I think will not only shape my future academic career and when I go into my thesis and I'm designing my project for thesis, but also in my future career as an architect. Moving into cultural competency, cultural competency to me is the ability to work with, understand, and empathize with a diverse set of cultures, not just cultures like mine or similar to mine, but that are different to mine. And something that I think that needs to become more of a core principle, and I think it should be a core principle of design, is because having cultural competency as an architect, as a designer, will help buildings last longer and have long-term positive impacts on the communities using and surrounding your building. Take, for example, a building that during the design process took in community feedback of saying, oh, like, for example, if community members really expressed, like, we want murals and we want more public artwork, and that's like public artwork and murals are a really big part of our culture and the culture of our neighborhood, the culture of our city, like Washington, D.C., for example, where I live. if you take something like that and incorporate elements of public art into a building space, that makes it more inviting for users, that makes it more engaging for users, and ultimately, instead of being in opposition with the community's desires and wants and needs, you're working together with them and can overall have that kind of lasting bond and connection with the people the building impacts the most. For in regards to envisioning my future as a scholar, these are topics that I really want to explore more in my graduate thesis. And as for being a leader in my field, it's becoming more of a popular practice to design buildings with a focus on sustainability, but interweaving that level of cultural competency and consideration and care for the surrounding community members that will experience the building every day, not just the clients, I believe will really not only just set me apart as a leader, but set me apart as a designer that cares, a designer that wants change and wants to long term improve their communities one building at a time. Yeah, that's all for now. Thank you so much for hearing me talk about this, and thank you. Bye.